Hello and welcome to another live edition of the Nittany Dispatch. I am John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at the Center Daily Times. She is Audrey Snyder, doing the same at InsideTheLines.substack.com, where you can find all of her work and subscribe. And it has been only a few days since we've recorded, but I don't know that there's much more confidence than we had on Saturday, Audrey.
That seems like a pessimistic kind of view here, John, for a Tuesday in September with Villanova coming to town. Yeah, I think when you unpack last weekend for Penn State, the theme, the most important thing, right? We hit on it pretty hard Saturday night, and we'll talk about it a lot today. It's what do you make of the offense from here, right? As they move forward, are there signs that they're trending in the right direction, right? Are there reasons for optimism? Yeah, I think so. Are there reasons for pessimism? Yeah, I also think so too, right? We've seen and heard a lot of that throughout the last, 36 hours or so, however long, more than that, I guess 48, 72 hours, however long it's been.
There you go.
We don't do math here at the Nittany Dispatch. But yeah, no, I mean, I think the offense is where we probably should start. Am I right, John? Is that where we're going to go?
Yeah, I think pretty clearly here. And you asked James Franklin about Nick Singleton. I think probably Singleton and Aller are the two places to start. We'll talk about the offensive line as well, too, of course. But I think Aller and Singleton are the two places to start. Do you have it up? Do you want to read what James Franklin said when you asked about Nick Singleton and kind of what is going on as to why, despite the production being good, there's still some consternation there.
Sure, I do have it pulled up. I don't have it memorized as much as I've tried. But yeah, no, I just asked James Franklin pretty simply, how has Nick Singleton looked to you thus far? And I think his answer is super telling. And I did my what I think I know about Penn State after 2 games piece over on my Substack, Inside the Lions, and that posted Monday morning. And I wrote it Sunday, posted Monday morning. And in there, I wrote that I wondered if Nick Singleton was overthinking, because it certainly looks like he wasn't the same guy that we saw at the end of last year. Obviously, it's early. Like, I'm not concerned, but just through 2 games, I expected that we would have seen more. So that was like the reason why I asked, right? So James Franklin's response to my question was, I had a conversation with Nick yesterday, and I think a little bit like Drew, meaning Drew Aller, I think he was thinking too much. And I think he's getting coached in some areas that I think are going to be important for his growth. I see him getting better. For all these guys, we're going to coach the heck out of them Sunday through Friday. Saturday, when you wake up, just go play. I think he's trying to play perfect. I think he's such a good kid and so coachable and trying to do all the things that are asked of him. But again, that's not what Saturdays are for. That's just go play, let it rip. We had a good conversation about that on Sunday, and then he continued. Franklin said he talked with Stan Drayton on Sunday as well. So he wants Nick Singleton to let it rip. And I do think that perhaps some of the coaching transition from Jaywan Snyder over to Stan Drayton, there could be some little differences there, right? That maybe, obviously, it's not like the running back position has changed. It's not like suddenly, you're at this point in your career and it's all different. But I just wonder if maybe how it's being described to him or how it's being emphasized, if that maybe has him just second guessing, or is it a matter of he's not trusting what he's seeing in front of him? Or, John, option 3, as I go a little deeper into this, are these guys maybe feeling some of the pressure of this year, of the fact of expectations, all of this? I don't know, but I did think that James's answer was really interesting. I thought it was really honest, and I think it's a kind of a good window into where they're at with this run game.
I think it's all 3. And I think what we're seeing, like you said, it's not like Stan Drayton is coming in and reteaching the position and Singleton has to relearn how to play football or anything like that. But I'm guessing what he's coaching him on is that in the past, Nick Singleton has a propensity to stretch every run out, right? Like he's trying to bounce it outside. He's trying to get the outside and go. And I'm guessing that they're trying to get him to see cutback lanes and take them, right? Like to see a cutback lane, see the space and go. Cut up field, make that one cut, get down the field. It looked like on Saturday that Singleton was in between both of those things, like the fighting the urge to cut back or fighting the urge to take everything outside, but at the same time feeling like, okay, I do need to find a cutback on occasion though. So like the reason I say this, I think I talked about this last week, that there was a play against Nevada where Singleton very clearly has the outside, a one-on-one against Nevada corner, and tries to cut it back into nothing. And I think that's probably him trying to search for the cutback no matter what. So then you get to the next week and he's trying to figure out when he needs to do which one, and he ends up getting caught in between and running right into his blockers. And so I think eventually he will sort of figure that out, right? He will get a better feel for it. That being said, part of what makes Singleton a great player isn't his like elite vision or anything like that, right? This has been a thing as long as he's been at Penn State. He finds open space on the outside and he makes big plays happen. Sometimes he loses yards because he's trying to bounce everything outside, and that can be a problem. But sometimes he finds the space and it's a massive gain. I think it will be better for him in the long run if he can find that balance and if he can figure out when he needs to hit specific holes. But in the meantime, it might look like this. Like if they're going to try and let him work through this, I think it might be a little bit messy until he gets a feel for what he's looking for and what he needs to see from the offensive line and the blockers to go.
Well, the other part of this is that Katron Allen has looked really good. And so, you point to that. You say, okay, well, if it indeed is maybe coaching points, obviously two different running backs, different run styles. But John, I think the big question is, you said you think it might take a while to work through it. Can he get right by Oregon? Is that the clock's ticking?
I almost wonder if you just tell him to revert to how he was before for Oregon and then go back to trying to work through it for the month after. You know what I mean? Like because here's the thing. You're right. Katron is clearly better right now. And part of that, I think, is that Katron Allen has always had excellent vision. He got compared to Le'Veon Bell when he first got to Penn State, and that kind of vision, that patience, his ability to knife through gaps and find his way into open space and gain an extra 3-4 yards with that in his power. He's always been.
Then I'll run you over once he's there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's always been good at that. And so now it's just being proven, I guess, because those gaps are a little bigger. He's seeing everything and he's playing like we would expect Katron Allen to play. I think in the long run, if they were playing Oregon in November, I think Singleton would get there. But because it's so soon, I don't know. And I don't know how you handle a situation like that, because how do you balance, do you risk the Oregon game and potentially going 10-2 to then maybe by playoff time, like he's a completely different back and all of a sudden he's, evolved to another level? Or do you put all your eggs in the Oregon basket and tell him to just let it loose?
Yeah. How do you get all your ducks in a row? Is that the ducks in a row for Oregon? I will say, because I said ducks and it took my brain there, I got to be careful, John. The next 2 weeks, got to be really, really careful, because I was wearing a different Packers hoodie last night.
Yes.
And had a lot of green, a lot of gold on it. And I got quite a few looks out wearing it. And one guy, I'm not quite sure what he was even looking at, because it very clearly says "Go Pack Go." He goes, Oregon. And I was like, no, like not at all, sir.
Yeah.
So just got to put that out. I got to be careful. And I said ducks. I got to watch what I wear here the next few weeks. But yeah, I mean, I wonder what they have to do to jumpstart Nick Singleton. And if you see a strong Nick Singleton Saturday against Villanova, do we put much or any stock in it, given it's an FCS opponent? Yes, they're usually a really good FCS team. They did a really nice job against the run game when they were here 4 years ago. Will you put any stock in it if Nick looks like the Nick of old on Saturday?
I think it depends on what it looks like, right? I think if he's seeing
100,
the field,
130, good burst,
he
good
could have
cuts.
He could have 7 for 12, and if they look good, I would rather have that than 8 for 150, right? Like, I think it's about how he sees the field in front of him, and that's going to dictate, what we kind of figure out from what he does.
So I take that as John is not putting much stock in Saturday.
No.
The other part of the offense, the other piece of this is coming out of postgame. You and I touched on it on our postgame show, that Drew Aller said he was overthinking against FIU, and he was missing throws that he should not be missing at this point in his career, especially. But the fact that he said he just needs to turn his brain off and go play. We thought that was very interesting. We thought that was noteworthy. We touched on that Saturday, talked a good bit about that. I think James Franklin hit on something even arguably more important, I might say, on Monday when he was talking about Drew Aller. And Franklin said that it's really hard to teach the next play mentality. And that Drew and some of these players, they're still working through that. Again, very, I think, honest answer, very telling answer. And I get the human element of this. This is really difficult to say, hey, you just missed a throw, got to go make the next one. And the thing that to me raises some alarm bells, if you will, is that this is senior year, and you think that at this point, I think you kind of are what you are, right? Like, I don't think the fact that I'm sitting here on September 9th and I'm saying, I don't know what you're going to get out of Drew Aller. That is not what I expected to say senior year of the 5-star quarterback's career. And I think that tells us a lot. But to me, that next play mentality thing and the fact that they're still working through that, and not just with Drew, but with a lot of guys, that's important. I think that's also something that you're going to see talked about at the next level, right? And when you go through the draft process, that FIU performance is going to be tough for quite a few teams. I would be willing to bet to shake. And now, granted, you're going to get someone who's going to say, well, he's our project. We're going to fix him. We're going to do it right. And again, we'll see how the rest of the season goes here. Lots of football still to be played. But yeah, I think that answer to the way Drew has been playing was also notable.
Yeah, and I think it's a sign that they're both kind of on the same page, because that next play mentality thing is thinking too much, right? Like Drew is dwelling on stuff. And I don't know that there's a short-term answer to it, right? Like, it's part of who he is, right? The ferocious competitor aspect of Drew Aller is not going to go away, and that's some of that is dwelling on your mistakes and thinking about like how you kind of messed up. But another part of that is trying to rectify those things, right? And trying to fix it and not just improve from game to game, but within the game, like, be better the next time. And so I'll be curious to see how he kind of handles that moving forward. I don't know that I expect him to come out and light the world on fire against Villanova. Honestly, I would just want him to I would want to see him hit the simple ones. Like, too many balls were on the ground that should have been easy passes to make, and they weren't. And he's just got to make those throws. Like, there's no, like he said, when he was asked about it on Saturday, he said it's pretty simple, just got to make all the throws. And he's made some difficult ones, but I think until he gets past that benchmark, people are going to continue to ask these questions.
Well, it's the fact that we're saying you want to see him come out and make the quote unquote easy throws, right? And we say easy throws because these are throws that a senior quarterback, 5-star prospect should be making, right? But let me put it this way. I was having a conversation with another beat writer this week, and we both had an interesting kind of interesting moment. To this point, John, when you think about Drew Aller's collegiate career, is there a specific play that you think about, a specific moment that comes to mind?
Not a good one. Actually, yes. The touchdown to Trey Wallace against Oregon last year. The one that he's like getting sacked and gets out of it. Now, if we're talking negative, obviously the interception against Notre Dame comes to mind. But like, I think I've come on here before and said that I still don't fault Drew for that. That is strictly on the wideout for not making enough effort on that play. But yeah, I think those would be the two plays that come to mind.
So you go to those two. I think back to the deep ball at Ford Field that we saw when it was like, holy crap, this guy has an arm. Like, I go back to, that's the moment for me that comes to mind. Now, Penn State fans, I'm sure, are hoping that moment, several of those moments are still to come. But I bring that up because I thought at this point in his career, and again, there's many reasons. We can get into the receiving core of years previous. We can get into whatever. But I just thought at this point in his career, we would have had a more complete picture. We would have had more of those moments. We would have said, yeah, there's no question asked coming out that he's going to come out against FIU. He's going to look great. We're going to see Ethan Grunkemeyer. Maybe he plays a quarter or two against Villanova. Then you see, like, to me, now it's like, okay, well, what happens if it's Oregon? What happens if it's Indiana? What happens if it's against Nebraska, Iowa, my upset pick of the year in the preseason? If Drew Aller comes out and isn't in a rhythm right away, what happens? And, typically you'd say, well, come out and get the short throws early, get him in a rhythm. Well, if you're not hitting for whatever reason, they just got to find a way to get him rolling. It's a really to this point, and again, everyone's allowed to improve. That's the beauty of this. To this point, it's a really interesting collegiate career for him because you just are trying to figure out if this guy has it. And the fact that the clock's ticking on that Oregon game, and after last week, I've always been really high on Drew Aller this preseason. When you gave me the either ors, I took the Heisman pick, right? That was one I doubled down on.
Feeling pretty good about that one.
Yeah, a lot of season left. A lot of season left. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we just don't know which kind of quarterback is necessarily going to show up at this point, I think is really interesting.
Well, and you said something that I want to discuss quite a bit further about, like, kind of how it got to this point, like his career and everything like that, and why this is happening. But first, let's take a quick break to tell you about our sponsors. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets. Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back. Think you know the game? Put your knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. With live betting, rivalry week odds boosts, and more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to own every Saturday. And here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's instantly. With a $5 bet, you get $300 in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DISPATCH. That's code DISPATCH for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
John, I see the logo. That means you must be wearing Roback today. Again,
Always.
Pretty much always, yes. Our friends over at Roback have a special offer. If you are a new Roback customer, you can use code TND20. That's TND20 as in the Nittany Dispatch 20 to save 20% off your first purchase over at Roback. The Penn State line is very cool. The We Are collection is out. Nick Singleton is a Roback athlete as well. You will see quite a few people out and about in State College and beyond sporting Roback. I love it. It's comfortable, looks nice, wears extremely well. That's code TND20 to save 20% off your first order over at Roback.
All right, let's talk about how it kind of happened, right, with Drew Aller, because I think this context is important because there are a lot of naysayers with him. There's a lot of like very pro Drew Aller people, and I think you and I both see this like kind of down the line, right? Like we're just looking at what's presented to us and trying to make the judgment there. Mm-hmm. And if you look at his career, his first year, I mean, not a wash, but he doesn't start, right? He's learning. His first year as a starter, he has Mike Yurcich as an offensive coordinator, and that offense was a complete disaster for long stretches of the season, especially in the biggest games. He was not calling plays to put Aller in position to succeed. In fact, I think you and I would agree that the play calling in the final game that he called against Michigan was kind of let's call it a shot at something, like a
swinging gate,
like some defiance, I guess, right? And to going down, to put it that way, to going down swinging. Yes. Yeah. And then year 3, he gets a new offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki, who I think we would have both agreed does a very good job. But again, they're not taking as many chances, and the wide receiver room is an unmitigated disaster. Not that it was good the year before, but this is like, last year was one of the worst wide receiver rooms I think that Penn State has had in the last 15 to 20 years. So you get to this year, right, where it's like, okay, he has the offensive coordinator, he has the offensive line, and he has weapons at wide receiver. But it's the first time he's had all of those things. And so I think we have to give him some grace these first few weeks if he's working through timing stuff, if he's working with dealing with the expectations that comes with it now that he has all those things. But at the end of the day, we're going to judge him based on how he does against Oregon, Iowa, and Ohio State this regular season, and Indiana. I think it's fair to put them in that bucket too. Like those 4 defenses are going to tell us what we know about Drew Aller. And not to say the clock is ticking because they still have 2.5 weeks to prep for this because they do have a bye week ahead of Oregon too. Mm-hmm. But I think it's kind of time. It's as much as I've defended him because of all those things have been against him in the past. I think that it's undeniable that he has to show something in relatively short order to kind of maintain the trajectory he's been on.
Yeah, I think you hit on it when this is the first year that everything has come together, right?
Right.
You can't say, oh, well, he doesn't have the receiving core, or oh, the offensive line's bad, or oh, the coordinator. I mean, the fact that it's year 2 with Andy Kotelnicki, I think is a very nice piece of this. The fact that they have an insanely good run game should be on paper another part of this. But I'll go to this level then, John. When you have a prospect of Drew Aller's magnitude, I think it is fair to say, okay, what can he do to elevate those around him, right? How can he raise the play of the others around him? And we got to see that. I think that's the other part of this. And we saw the bad side of it against FIU, where it's like, okay, he's putting the ball on somebody inside when it should be outside. And you see the body language coming off the field, a couple of those bad body language moments. And again, I look at that stuff. Some people probably don't care. It doesn't matter. Again, everybody is different on the body language doctor scale. He is a team captain, had been a team captain before as well. Guys have a ton of respect for Drew Aller. They love him, as they should. They believe in him. But you want to see the consistency, and you want to see an offense that's more explosive. And James Franklin's hit on that again this year. I feel like we should just keep playing the chuck it deep clip and just run that on a loop, because they haven't hit their explosive play goals now through 2 games. So that'll be something else to monitor. But again, if it happens against Villanova, okay, kind of so what?
It's about how it happens, right? Like if Nick Singleton has like a 70-yard run on a cutback up the middle and he's, you know what I mean? It's because he saw the lane and hit it. I think that matters more than him, making, breaking a tackle against someone up the middle that he ran into that he should have tried to avoid, right? When he had different cutback lanes. But yeah, I generally agree that Aller has to elevate those around him. But I think in some way he's hit like the level that you have to hit with that stuff, right? Like, and you said it, his teammates respect him and they believe in him. And that's the baseline. And if it doesn't go any higher than that, I don't know that it matters too much. It can be helpful when they're like willing to, you know what I mean? Like go above and beyond. But I think a lot of guys probably are willing to go above and beyond for Drew. And so I think from that standpoint, he's still, not the most rah-rah vocal leader, but they all know how much of a fiery competitor he is. And I think that's actually more important, that they know that how bad he wants to win and how bad he wants it, because that can get them feeling the same way. So that sort of stuff, I think he's kind of hit the baseline that he needs to. To me, it's about giving them confidence in the game by hitting those easy throws, right? Like by, Khalil Dinkins is getting criticized a little extra this week for some drops that on throws he probably should have made, but he would have made, I would guess, if Drew had put the throw on the money. And so, you have that aspect of it too, where it's not just Drew ends up looking like he struggled. It's other guys on the offense end up looking like they struggled because Drew was a little bit off the mark. And I think they just need to see him continue to do this on the field. I think they all believe in him in the utmost, and that stuff won't be an issue. I just flat out think he needs to play better. I thought he was good against Nevada in the season opener, but he wasn't. Like this wasn't like he was fine. They got away with it because it was FIU. Yeah. He was bad, and they got away with it because the defense was ridiculously good. And I know some people have harped on the yards they gave up in the FIU game. I do not care about yards per game. It's just not, because
it's the score at the end of the day. Yeah.
Well, and it also doesn't account for like yards per play and like how many drives are they getting and those types of things. So I think the defense kind of bailed him out, because if that game was closer, if it was 17-0 or 13-0, that he would be feeling the heat a lot more.
If Devontae Ross does not catch that touchdown, I don't know what's happening. Or if Saki Wheatley doesn't make that tackle, then they go down and score. I don't know what kind of response you get. And that to me is the fascinating part about this. But James Franklin did make a point to say on Monday too, as he always does, they're going to celebrate winning around here. And every Sunday he shows the team all the clips of the teams that lost, that were supposed to win and didn't. And I certainly get that and understand that as well. And you're trying to strike that delicate balance as a coach of, okay, well, this wasn't good enough. And everybody, I think the other telling part about this is that everyone we've talked to on the offense has acknowledged, like, yeah, that was not us. That first half was not us. That was not good enough, right? And that matters. It
Nobody's trying to
wasn't like,
paper over it and say that, like,
yeah.
oh no, you're not seeing it right. It's accountability on all
Mhm.
fronts.
Yes, I think to me, like, they hit that box, and that's what I'm like, yeah, okay, like they know this was not them at their best. So again, there's room for improvement, room for growth, and that's why we're here, John, to see if they get there. That's that's what we're going to be talking about the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe not even the rest of the year. The next 18 days till the Oregon game, right? And then we'll have that first data point.
Yeah.
I think that is
Big
going
old
to
data
be-
point.
Yeah, and we talk as long as we talk on these episodes leading up to then, and please continue to watch and listen. But those are the games that are going to define this season, and we will be talking about them quite a bit.
Maybe careers too.
Well, that's the other part of this, right? Like, it's not just Drew's career either. It's all of his teammates' careers. It's Andy Kotelnicki and kind of what comes next, and what does the next job look like? It's James Franklin and his legacy. Like, everyone involved has so much on the line this season that it would be hard to not feel some type of pressure. And I'm not saying that they're like, they're cracking under pressure or anything like that, but it is human to feel those things and to understand those things. They just have to channel it properly. And I think for the most part they have. It's just Drew and Nick were so bad against FIU that it's hard not to ascribe some of that to that part of it.
They were so bad on the same day.
Yeah.
That's the other.
Right. Like, if one's bad and the other's not, it just kind of
out.
lets it go. And they're both kind of connected because they're both the high profile guys. Drew, the 5-star quarterback, Nick, the 5-star running back. Nick's the hometown guy. Drew's the guy they went to Ohio and got. Like, they both have these kind of massive, these stories behind them that people really want to latch onto and then be like, these are the guys that did it at Penn State. And I think that creates even more pressure. So yeah, I think James, like he has been all this season, quite frankly, was very honest with us on Monday in his assessment of things. And I think he's right. Like, obviously, I think both of those guys need to relax and play how they know they can play. And because this is the thing, this is not like Drew Aller, yes, has a ton of tools, but it's not like we've never seen him have a great game before, right? That Oregon game last year, he was awesome. It's just doing it in the games that matter the most in the regular season too.
Just letting it rip, John. Let it rip.
Yes. All right. I think that's probably a good place to leave it for the FIU game. We've turned over every stone there in some regard for a game against an FIU opponent that is probably better, I think, than some people think, but also a bottom 40 to 50 team in college football. This Villanova game is going to be all about, to me, these guys and kind of getting ready for that and showing that they can bounce back. I am curious. We've talked a lot about the offense. Does this feel like a tune-up to you for the defense? One in which like they're getting more like, okay, the first teamers are playing all together at once, and then they rotate the young guys later? Or do you think they stick to this schedule of rotating consistently and guys are maybe mixing and matching a little more? Because this, I think, is going to be interesting for a defense that's so predicated on communication.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a really good point. James has said that some of these substitutions are why he thinks that some of these games have been a little bit closer, not closer, but necessarily like they've been in some tighter moments where they've given up big plays. There's been a ton of rotations going on with the defense, which you want to build depth. Again, they approach this like 3 preseason games with this schedule of cupcakes that they have in non-conference play. I think you're at the point now, and poor Wildcats, man. I think they're going to get it, but I think you got to tighten up your rotation and like stick with your guys, because at this point, like I think okay, you got Zariah Fisher back last week. You want to keep repping him. You know what you have with Deny. Okay, like you've got a really young good stud in Chaz Coleman, but you got to start tightening up, I think, and getting the rep counts back down. But John, the other side of this is the load management piece. And with an extended season, it will be interesting to see just how much mixing and matching they do, because you want to start saying, okay, if and when this thing gets out of control, you got to pull Deny. Well, okay, if you pull Deny, then you're giving Chaz Coleman reps. But okay, at what point do you want to think about, hey, he's a young guy. This is a really long season for him. You want to play him, but also you want to get, the other guys in there too. So yeah, I think we'll see some tightening up of the rotations, at least with the starters, but they're going to play a lot of guys on this defense. I think that's the other piece of it.
I think my goal would be to play your planned best 11 together as much as you can. And then after a quarter and a half
Mhm.
or a full half, like pull them all and then go with the young guys, right? Like less rotating early in the game. Because to me, and this, unfortunately for Villanova, this is true. I don't know that there's a difference whether the Penn State young guys are playing against Villanova's best players or their backups, right? Like it's just such a wide talent gap that I think Penn State should be trying to get everyone reps with the guys they're going to be playing with moving forward. And if you have 13 guys you're going to rotate consistently, then those are the 13 that should be rotating consistently, I think, in the first half. And then just flip that switch whenever you deem that the game is out of reach and no more rotating, no more getting guys reps, and it's completely over. I think almost treating it as if it's Oregon for however long you're treating it as a competitive game is what you want to do, and then make the change rather than, deny plays a series, comes off, because I think with the communication piece being an important part of it, especially with the linebackers in the back four or back five, I should say, I think you want to get them on the field communicating in situations that they're going to be in against Oregon together as often as possible. It's not as helpful if, let's say Kenny Woosley's maybe he's not going to play against Oregon, right? Well, so then him communicating with, AJ Harris isn't as helpful. That being said, I actually think Woosley will play against Oregon. I think he's clearly a rotation level player for them. I'm just using that as an example of like, if these guys aren't going to play next to each other against Oregon, I wouldn't want to play them next to each other this week.
And that to me is the interesting strategic part of this, of how they approach it. And again, we're not going to know until Saturday, till they're on the field.
Yep.
But I still want to go back to the communication piece because I wanted to ask James Franklin about it, but we had other things to ask about Monday. Hopefully we get there Wednesday night, or if we're getting defensive players after practice. I'm still curious about that communication on Saturday because I've talked to more offensive players this week at this point in the week, and it seemed like there were, and I hit on this Saturday, there were those moments where guys are looking at the sideline like, what's going on? Who's coming on? Who's coming off? I just want to get a little bit more on that. Again, maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. I don't know. But yeah, I think you got to start to tighten up your rotations and say, hey, this is what we have. But again, when you pull the starters, that's always the point of contention. At what point is it out of reach? Because again, when Villanova came in here 4 years ago, everybody thought, all right, it's going to be over early, same kind of thing. And they made it interesting, and they were able to shut down the run game. And they, did a really nice job keeping a good Penn State team on their toes, even though Jahan Dotson and the offense just like big played them to death. But I do think you're looking in the bigger context of what do you need to accomplish Saturday to get ready for Oregon? Because again, it's that game, it's the off week, no game week, and then it's Oregon. And me and John, at the end of the game Saturday, when they, make the announcement of, okay, fans, next time, whatever, the whiteout against, like, people are going to start ramping up. Yep. And you can feel the energy, the excitement, because it's that first litmus test of the season. It's getting close.
When it's I think I said this preseason, it's the most important game of the season because it's the one of the two games that you can feel fairly confident that Penn State should win this one, right? If you're going to pick between that and Ohio State, they're just more likely to beat Oregon at home than Ohio State on the road.
Right. It's a big game. It's here, and both of those games are coming off of an off week. Yep. So yeah, I'm curious to see Saturday just what they do from that standpoint. It was interesting. We were chatting with Zariah Fisher today on Zoom and talking about his return. And this is a guy who hadn't played since the Peach Bowl, right? Because he's dealt with injuries and just what it meant for him coming back and being able to play. And we talked with King Mack today as well. And I asked him, what are the most important traits for being a kick returner? And let me tell you, John, I'm not going to spoil the story because it'll be up Wednesday, if I knew my days of the week. It'll be up Wednesday in my midweek musings over on my Substack Inside the Lions. This guy has those traits in spades. And we also heard from Luke Reynolds on Tuesday. And again, this is someone who's looked like a really big part of the offense. Someone I think that you and I both expected was going to play well and has played well. again, continuing to make sure all these guys are ready to go for Oregon. That's what this week is about. I mean, this is the Feast of the Cupcakes. I will be writing about Villanova at the end of this week. If our listeners, I don't think we were podcasting back at the time, but
No,
4
we
years
weren't.
ago.
Yeah, we were
4
not.
years ago, I
I think that was
spent.
my first year on the beat.
So like
It would have been
20,
5 years.
was 2019?
21.
No, 21. Yeah. What is time? What is time? Regardless, it was 4 years ago. And I spent most of the game week with Villanova, with their coaches, players, sat in on meetings, practices, like all access. It was super, super cool, super informative. And I hit on this in the post-game show, but when you sit there, and because the whole week I was there, I was like, how do you like get your guys up for what you know is not going to be a pretty game? Like, it's not a fair fight.
Right.
And the whole thing is like, you look at it from their side and it's like, we're just preparing for the teams that we can face at the FCS level, that like it's the race against ourselves, and it's preparing for crowd noise. And how do you do that? Well, at the time they did it by blasting leaf blowers, and just all these interesting wrinkles. But I'm going to write about Villanova this week and touch base with some of the folks over there as well, and just kind of hopefully give readers a look at what they're doing to prepare for a game that, hey, the paycheck that they get, and Penn State has never disclosed this figure, nor has Villanova when the series was announced, and I've asked several times, very kindly, I might add. The money that they get for a game like this, right? Like, fans will say, well, what's the point? That money then helps them like charter a flight for an important game later on in the year, right? And there's more value for a team like Villanova playing a game like this, say, than playing against Georgia or Alabama, right? Because they can bus up here. You're going to get some of their fans up here. One of the cool things that I'm willing to bet they will do again when they get here Friday, they will take the whole team to the stadium, and they will take their photos on the field and like mark the moment. I hope they pause the Beaver Stadium construction for them so they can really enjoy the moment without the sounds of construction.
Yeah, because this is the biggest venue that most of these guys will ever play in, you know,
For
like,
sure,
and it
ever.
will be
And
the biggest crowd they'll ever play in front of.
yeah, I mean, John, they've got a 33-year-old Australian punter.
Yes, who is literally older than I am.
That's, to me, that is the what if of the week, right? If Riley Thompson would have held on to the job, you have two Aussie punters who would be a combined age of, I don't know what that number
112,
is.
I think.
Yeah, 112-year-old
Between the two of
seniors.
them, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a great storyline this week.
Yeah.
But here we are just talking about one 33-year-old punter this week because it's Villanova week.
Yes.
And to be clear, Riley Thompson is not 33.
Yes, he's much younger than that. But let's get into our predictions for the game. I would like to point out that, unfortunately, I was not on the pod last week for a prediction, because if you go to centerdaily.com, where you can read all my work and see my prediction, I had specifically for the MVP, Chaz Coleman, and that he would not only get a strip sack, but that he would recover it. And I'm so mad at myself that I was not here to put this in the audio form. You can still go read it.
It's not here, it doesn't count.
Well, fair enough. But yes,
John, I
nailed that one last week.
Well, I'm glad you nailed that one, because I sensed some flip-flopping in a preseason story of yours where I think you might have said a player to watch on the pod. You might have said somebody, but then in print you said somebody else. And I think you're trying to hedge here a little bit is what I'm getting at. I think
some of that's timing.
I'm getting in your head a little bit.
When I write things, that's all that is. But I'll go first for this game. I think it's fairly straightforward. I think Penn State wins 42-0. I don't think Villanova scores. This defense is too good. I think the offense bounces back. I think Trevor Pena is the guy that we're talking about on Sunday, because he has that kind of like 7-catch, 105-yard performance with a touchdown that, like, now we've been through 3 games and we've seen all 3 wide receivers have like the biggest game for the team. And I think that inspires a lot of confidence. I think Drew Allar looks better. I think Nick Singleton plays more like himself. Maybe he doesn't have like some of those cutbacks that they're clearly trying to get him to take. But I think he, gets to the edge, wins some races against the defense, and scores a long touchdown.
And so again, your score was
42-0.
Okay. I'm going Penn State 49, Villanova 3. I got the Cats getting on the board late, which, remember, They had a touchdown last time late in the game.
I say it was 38-17 last time.
But remember, they had that late touchdown, and it was like it takes a lot when you're looking at the differences in the trenches in a game like this. It feels almost unfair to allow me to pick this because it's, again, not a fair fight, but deny Dennis Sutton, I'm going to pick as the player of the game. Now, I say this, and we're probably only going to see him for probably a half.
But he might get like 3 sacks.
Yeah, that's the pick, right? I'm going for the stat sheet stuffing performance. And that's you're hoping when you're Villanova, it's like, hey, just try to lock these guys up for 3-4 seconds. Like, that's your hope. And
I think 3 or 4 is asking a lot.
It's a lot.
It
is asking a lot. And they got to help. I mean, you got to help him out, help the guy over on his side out and try and chip deny. But because I think I got to pick someone else as well, in addition to my pick 1, my pick 2. My pick 2 is tight end Luke Reynolds, because we've seen a lot of him, and I think this is a guy you can continue to work in with Ethan Grunkemeyer as well. Then you probably get into Rapplier, but I'm going to deny Dennis Sutton as pick 1, and then for the longer extended version, I'm going to go Luke Reynolds, and then I've got Penn State 49, Villanova 3.
Yeah, I think Chaz Coleman could also be in for a pretty big week because athletically these guys can't match up with him either, but he's going to get more reps because he needs them because he's younger.
Yeah.
So we could see him have a multiple sack game, but I picked him last week, even though I didn't do it on here.
Didn't pick him here, didn't count.
It's a real shame. I just nailed the prediction. It was so spot on. So it was funny when I had originally written that I had in there that he was going to return it, but get brought down before he scores. And I was like, man, if I would have included that too, I was like, no, that's too specific. We don't need to.
You know what? You should have played the Powerball last week, John.
Yeah, no, I should have.
Did you see the video? I didn't actually watch it. This is going to be terrible. I only saw the headline. I didn't read it. I could be passing along false information here, but apparently I saw it online. It must be true. A woman they asked her, like, they interviewed her in Alabama and said, if you win Powerball,
yes,
what are you going to do?
I saw the video.
Yeah.
And she said she was going to buy out
Kalen DeBoer.
That's tough.
Love it. Like, that is college football fandom's.
I just couldn't imagine, like, someone wins the lottery and their first thing they want to do is fire me. Oh, that's
like you're not buying a house, you're not buying a boat.
That's a tough scene.
You're firing a head coach.
Yes. But I think that's a good place to leave it for this week. We will be back live Saturday post game. We'll be a little later, of course, because it's a 3:30 kick, but we will keep you posted and post on both Twitter and Blue Sky when we are going live, as we always do. If you'd like to read Audrey's work, you can find it at insidethelines.substack.com. You can find her on Twitter at @OddSnyder4 and on Blue Sky if you search Audrey Snyder. You can find me on Twitter at John Sauber and on Blue Sky if you search John Sauber. And you can read all my work at centerdaily.com. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button down below and hit the subscribe button. That always helps us out as we continue that march to 2,000 subscribers. If you're listening on audio, on Apple Podcasts specifically, don't forget to leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Those also help us out very much. We will be back on Saturday. Until then, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.